Is there a prompt? There are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-Footers gang? We just talked to you. We're back for part 2, and we got to talk about all things the NBA draft, because this is going to be a virtual draft due to COVID-19, and things are unprecedented because we have never done this. So we know that the Timberwolves have the number 1 pick, the Warriors have the number 2 pick, Hornets have the number 3. You guys can guess this kind of list of the level that we're at. So with that being said, hopefully these guys can land them some good picks, because we have a lot of top players who are coming out with vengeance, trying to make their name in the league as NBA rookies. And we obviously have to kick things off with the buzz around LaMelo Ball. Obviously, you guys, if you don't know, he is the brother of Lonzo Ball, the famous Ball family. You all know that spiel. We got to talk about this because he is the number 1 projected pick. However, there are some rumblings within NBA execs that some believe that he is the number 1 pick, will be, and some believe that he may slip within the draft. Now, this goes along with rumors that he hasn't done that well in interviews, not that he's had much interviews, and things of that sort. Again, it could be the name that's tainting him. Who knows? Again, it's all hearsay at this point. But Jarod, talk to me about LaMelo Ball here. What do you see? What do you like? Do you think he'll go number 1?
So here's what's interesting, right? The tough part about draft time is that we talk to people, I talk to sources, you hear from agents and teams and different things. Everybody's lying to you, right? Like, you just don't know who's telling the truth, what's real, what's fake, what's actually going on. With LaMelo Ball, I'm hearing a lot of the same things, that interviews are either meh or terrible, right? Which is not a good thing. Now, is part of that, is he being graded on a stricter curve because of his name and all that comes with that? Of course, that being LeVar Ball and that whole circus. I'm sure that's part of it. And also, there are people who I've talked to, and they've said to me, Jarod, it's not so much, LaMelo himself as much as it is the people that are around him. And so, it's a crapshoot, right? And these teams have to get out here and literally figure out, okay, how am I going to pick the next guy or the best possible player in this draft that's going to help us win? Look, LaMelo, just from a pure sort of like intangible, like, or it's not intangible, pure tangibles, right? The size, right? He's 6'7", he's athletic, he's got a 6'10" wingspan. We see all the things, right? He's got the size to play in the NBA. We know he played overseas in Australia this past year, right? His vision is incredible, but there are a lot of things in his game that aren't good, right? Namely, his lack of compete on defense. Like, he doesn't even try on that end of the floor. That's problematic in this league. Going to be really problematic because it isn't like he's an elite scorer, because he's not. Yeah, he can score the ball, but he's not very efficient. He's not a great shooter, and he takes a ton of bad shots, right? Like, he, like so many people in their NBA careers, are going to, whether or not he reaches his full potential and hits the ceiling, it's going to depend on, obviously, his work ethic and what he wants to do, but also the team and the environment into which he's drafted. If he's drafted by a franchise that has a clear picture, a vision of what they want to do, you got good vets on his squad, he's got a shot. If he gets drafted by a dumpster fire, well, we know how that's going to go. Not well, right? And so, honestly, I don't know. Would I, if I were the Timberwolves, pick him number 1? Hell no. That's just me. I would not. But, if I'm the Timberwolves, who would I pick at number 1? The thing about this draft is, I don't know that there is any future MVP or like anybody of that caliber in this draft. I don't see it. It doesn't mean that none of these players can, get into a situation, work their butts off, and like come. Of course, it could happen. Of course, it's possible. Is it likely? I don't see it. I was on the phone with a college coach earlier today, and he told me, Jarod, I don't like anybody in this draft. He's like the only player I think who could be decent is the center, the big kid from USC, Onyeka Okongwu. Like, he's the only one who's like I could see like going into the league right away because he's a good defensive big and he could help a team and be a starter level player in the NBA. He's like, anybody else, I don't know what to tell you, right? We have a lot of guys who, if they hit their ceilings and they learn and develop certain skills, can really be really good. And if not, the floors are terrible. And it's just, I don't know. A kid who I do like in this draft as well is James Wiseman. I think he's intriguing, of course, at number 2 for the Golden State Warriors. He's a rim running center. He can play defense. That's the kind of culture and environment that would be good for him with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and of course the infrastructure there with GM Bob Myers and head coach Steve Kerr. But the history of this league tells us that rookies don't often come into teams like the Warriors who have championship aspirations and contribute to winning basketball, right? So, but in terms of all the players, his tape and what I see, I like the most. But what does that mean? I don't know. Like, he could be good, he could be, And that's the thing. We're trying to guess, like, and evaluate who's going to be great, and it's just like, I don't know. I
agree. I feel like this draft is definitely, I don't want to say weaker. I just want to say,
I mean, it is. It's a weak draft, right? I mean, last year you knew, all right, it's Zion, it's right, John Morant, like all these guys who were able to come in, step in right away, and like, wow, they're the draft class before that, right, with Luka and Jaren Jackson, and like, right, all right, you had guys who you knew, okay,
right,
these dudes are gonna be able to come in. I don't know any of these guys who are here. I don't know in this current draft who can approximate anything any of those few guys I just mentioned were able to do thus far.
No, same. I completely agree.
I just don't see it.
I think that going off of James Wiseman, I think that he would be a good pick for the Warriors just because, again, I love studying these guys and their different player profiles, things like that. Did you know that James Wiseman is fluent in Mandarin?
Oh, I did not know that.
He's fluent in Mandarin. He reads business books in his spare time.
All right.
He's very smart.
Right.
He's a very smart guy. It's very interesting, some of these guys. And he's on TikTok.
Look, but again, right? If you're the Warriors, what do you do there? Obviously, center is a position of need for you, right? But if you're the Warriors,
he's a 7-footer.
He's a 7-footer. If you are the Warriors, though, you're in win now mode, right? Steph and Klay back off injuries, like they're ready to roll. Draymond, these guys are in their 30s. Like, it's like, yo, can we run it back and win a title? Is Wiseman going to be good enough to help them do that, or do they package him, the number 2 pick, and some other stuff, and try to get an already established NBA player who can help them win now?
Right.
And
hey, I mean, that's also a good point.
And if you're the Warriors, right, how much of it is, because again, when you're Bob Myers, you got to kind of play both sides, right? I got to win now, but I also got to plan for our future when Steph and Klay are no longer here, right? Like, it's a challenge, right. But that's why they pay them the big bucks.
Hey, yeah. I mean, I think he'd be a good backup. If they don't package him out, I think he'd be a good backup for Draymond Green. I mean, he's great rebounder, and he has a great potential to have some good impact on both ends of the floor. We'll see. I mean, when Draymond fouls out or kicks somebody in the groin again, we'll see. You never know. But I had to. It was right there. Love you, Draymond.
Oh, we also didn't mention Anthony Edwards, who I like in this draft. Like there are a lot of players that like are interesting.
Edwards, yeah.
Anthony Edwards probably is the best scorer in this draft, right? From what I've seen. Now, what does that mean? I mean, he isn't a great shooter. He's not that efficient, but he can get where he wants to, right? He's got good dribble, he can hit tough shots. Bad decision making, right? Like, he's athletic, he's got good handle, 6'5", right? I mean, he's good size, right? Like, he could be something, but
Yeah.
obviously not quite there yet. Now, the other thing about this draft is a lot of these guys are young, right? We're talking 19, 18, 19. Older is like 20 years old, right? So they have a lot of development to do. Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State, like him a lot as well. Another interesting player is Denny Aviga from Maccabi Tel Aviv, who plays overseas. 6'9", got handle, can do a lot of different things. Not a great shooter. And that's the other thing, right? That, like, as we're moving into this sort of era of the NBA, size and athleticism is still important. I don't want to pretend that it is not. But skill is extremely important, right? Like, your ability to pass, dribble, and shoot, like the core of the game. Those things, the premium on that is so high right now. You got guys that can pass, dribble, and shoot. You can figure out what to do with them right now. If they can pass, dribble, and shoot, and they have size and athleticism, well, shit, that's the holy grail. Then you're talking, right? And so that's what these GMs and these front offices and these coaching staffs and these scouts are trying to figure out, right? It's like, okay, how much value am I placing on athleticism versus, look, man, but this kid can shoot it. Is right? Like, skill. Ultimately, the game is about putting the ball in the bucket, right? Like, can we strengthen you up and get your athleticism up to a level where it's like, you know, you look at someone like Luka Doncic, right? Luka isn't a great athlete. I mean, he's an NBA, so he's obviously a high-level athlete, but he isn't a Russell Westbrook level athlete. Hell, he's not even a Lonzo Ball, a LaMelo Ball level athlete. But Luka is highly skilled, right? Like, so that matters, right? He got skill and size. And so it's this balance we're looking at, right? With when you're evaluating these players, who's going to do what, right? And again, it's tough. Jobs are lost based on making bad decisions in the draft, right? So it's tough, and I get it. And you've got to do your intel, do as much homework as you possibly can. I think honestly in this draft, it's a trade down draft to me, because outside of Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, maybe LaMelo Ball, but I'm not even sold on him like that. Like, it's just, like, there are 10 guys I mentioned, right? Wiseman, Edwards, Halliburton I talked about, Obi Toppin from Dayton, Denny Aviga, which is mentioned from Maccabi Tel Aviv, Patrick Williams from Florida State, Tyrese Maxey from Kentucky, Okongwu from USC, who I mentioned, and Killian Hayes. Like, those 10 guys, to me, it's like, meh, all right. Like, these are the dudes in some level that I think have the highest upside to be something in this league. What that something is, I don't know. Right? I have no idea. But again, outside of Wiseman, who everyone likes, Edwards, and probably LaMelo, anybody else, you can get them, I think, anywhere in the first round. I really do. So if you're, let's say you're Charlotte and you really want Wiseman, and Minnesota's like, meh, Wiseman's not our guy, neither is LaMelo. We kind of like Denny Aviga, or we kind of like Tyrese Maxey. Okay, well then let me trade down, right? Get and collect a bunch of assets, perhaps picks in next year's draft and the draft after that, which are projected to be stronger. I can do some things, and I can still get my guy later in this round. So that's the kind of back office dealing and like wheeling and dealing that's going to be happening as we go head into this draft on the 18th.
Exactly. Nice. I love that little preview you gave us there. And if you guys want to know anything, hit us up on social media. We'll help you out. We'll get you the facts that you need and the little tidbits you need on draft night. Don't you worry. All right. If you guys want to know who's a TikToker, I got you. All right. I got you. You want to know someone's nickname? Hit a sister up. Anyway, speaking of trades, let's talk about it here, because we already have trade rumblings, trade season, as the kids say, SZN. You know how it goes out in these streets. Now, let's talk about the most recent headline of the trade talks.
Mm-hmm.
The Pelicans, are they in open talks about trading Jrue Holiday? And when I say open talks, I mean it's wide open.
Well,
that's what we're hearing.
You know, it's funny, right? So remember what I said during the time of year? Everyone's lying to you. Everybody's telling you all different kinds of things, right? That's just what's happening right now. So Pelicans president of basketball operations, David Griffin, came out and said all these glowing, wonderful things about Jrue Holiday and his family, and we love him and we can keep him and all that. What that says to me is he's probably on the trading block, right? That's just a lot of, it's like, you know, and not because he doesn't like Jrue, but because he's like, okay, if I can get him somewhere that would be beneficial to him, because he's done so much for us as a franchise, and meaning as the Pelicans, can get something back in return that's highly valuable for us, that's more on timeline with my young core of Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, right? And that crew, okay, we can figure something out. So Jrue Holiday is someone who's going to be very, very highly sought after in the trade market. And there are a few teams actually, that could really use him. The Brooklyn Nets could use Jrue Holiday. The Denver Nuggets could use Jrue Holiday. The Miami Heat could use Jrue Holiday, right? And I love him in Brooklyn because everyone's talking about, okay, the Nets got KD and Kyrie. We know that. But they need a third star, right? Or a third player. Mm-hmm. And the question is, do we think Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie are capable of being that next guy? Well, here's the thing about Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert from a fit perspective. Dinwiddie and LeVert, to be effective and the best versions of themselves, need to have the ball in their hands. Well, so do Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. There's only one ball. So we all can't have the ball at the same time. Now, Jrue Holiday is excellent because he can play off ball, excellent catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and he is an excellent defender. And on that team, because we know your man's Kyrie don't play no defense, we need another player to be able to play excellent defense next to Kyrie. That could be Jrue Holiday. Now, how do the Nets get him? Right? Because I find the Pelicans, David Griffin, I want some young talent back in return. Well, what is that young talent?
Right.
It's probably going to have to include some version of Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and or Spencer Dinwiddie. The Nets probably, they don't want to give up both Dinwiddie and LeVert. It's going to be either one or the other. They would probably prefer to give up Dinwiddie. But if I'm David Griffin, I'm probably going to insist on wanting LeVert, right? And so that's the question, right? Do you give is it worth it? Do you give up LeVert because you're like, okay, with my win now, and by the way, that's what you are in Brooklyn. You're a win now, right? Kevin Durant's 30 years old, coming off an Achilles tear. Kyrie's in his late 20s. It's win now. We don't got time to plan for the future and whatever. They went all in when they got those two guys on we're winning now. Holiday would be an excellent addition on that squad. I talked about the Denver Nuggets. Denver was so good last season and excellent in the bubble. We saw what Jamal Murray could do. That's a hell of a backcourt combination of him and Jrue Holiday with Nikola Jokic. Now, what if I'm David Griffin do I want if you're going to trade Jrue Holiday to the Denver Nuggets? I'm probably going to ask for Michael Porter Jr. at a minimum, right? Okay, if you're Denver, are you willing to give up a young player who's got some promise, right? Michael Porter Jr. has done a lot to sort of improve his stock, and he's someone who teams can convince themselves of, ooh, I kind of like this guy, right? Do I want him? Is he on the table? Is he off the table? You know, I don't know, right? Like,
just Michael Porter?
Oh, no, not just Michael. Oh, no. It'd have to be Michael Porter and a combination of Harris, Will Barton, right? A draft pick somewhere. It would for the salaries to match. Denver's got a much less of a chance of getting him, but you know that's the area you'd have to look at for if you're someone like them. Miami, they're interesting, right? Because Jrue Holiday, would they be willing to part ways with Tyler Hero? Tyler Hero
just got the chance.
Tyler Hero's done a lot to improve his chances to improve his stock, not his chances, with his performance. If you're Miami, do you want to give up on Tyler Hero? But Jrue Holiday with Jimmy Butler and cap space for next season to go after a big time free agent. Is that right? Is that enough? Again, there's so many different things you can do here, and this is the fun, fun part, dangerous part, whatever you want to call it, of NBA offseason and figuring out, again, how do I get the right pieces around to fit what it is I want to do? Remember, each team's got a different goal, horizon, and timeline, right? The Pelicans ain't trying to win no title next year. That's not in the cards for them. But can they get enough pieces in place so that everybody's on the Zion, Brandon Ingram, right, on that timeline with that Lonzo Ball, with that crew, right? We shall see.
And adding to your argument about Jrue Holiday, let's not forget a while back before they got Zion, they were pretty much putting the team in Jrue's hands. They were making him the guy until, they acquired the shiny new toy of Zion Williamson and his Jordan Brand deal before he even played. But, so had to throw that in there. But we got to talk about another wild trade rumor that is circulating here, because we saw, I actually thought I was seeing things when I saw this one. So after the Rockets coaching staff of Mike D'Antoni and the front office of Daryl Morey heads to Philadelphia, the rumors start about the Sixers looking to seriously pursue James Harden. But do they need another point guard? Is this even a thing?
So obviously the reason why that came up is because Daryl Morey's over in Philly now, right? So everybody's like, oh, he's going to try to figure out a way to get James Harden over to Philly. Salary-wise, I don't know how that works, number one. I mean, that's the question, is do you do that and move Ben Simmons potentially, right? Because then it becomes you run pick and roll action with James Harden and Joel Embiid, right? Okay, that could work. But again, if you're Houston, is that what you want to do? If you're Houston, I don't know. It remains to be seen sort of what the direction of the Rockets is, because we know your man Tilman Fertitta, even though he's a billionaire, he's a broke boy right now, right? So he's out here not trying to pay coaches, not trying. I mean, when I say broke boy, people, I mean he's leveraged extremely high and he's not liquid, right? So he's like doing whatever he can to cut cost measures, right? So maybe. I think there's always gonna. The minute that happened, the internet went nuts with that one. It would make the internet go crazy and people would love it. I think we just as soon see something different than that take place than James Harden end up in Philly, but never say never.
Right, never say never. And just a last note about that one too, I just find it super confusing because, say God forbid this is true or it does happen in some alternate universe, I guess, but if you say you do a trade with James Harden and Ben Simmons, what is Houston really getting? No offense to anyone, but Russ ain't shooting great.
Well, the question is Russ still going to be on Houston?
That is also true. Exactly. But if you were to do that 1-for-1 deal,
and it wouldn't be quite 1-for-1.
What are you doing on offense in Houston?
It wouldn't be quite 1-for-1 because the salaries don't quite match. You'd have to send something back with Ben. Ben makes 20 something. I don't have that off the top of my head, but you'd have to add some other stuff with that to make it work. And don't forget, right? Both of these teams are in the luxury tax. When we talked about that at the top of the part one of this episode. The new luxury tax threshold is gonna smooth out for the owners. So and I know for Tilman ain't trying to pay luxury tax. That I do know. So
hilarious. Speaking of Russ, let's talk about this one because some sources are saying, and I'm gonna ask you about your sources as well, Jarod. Are the Clippers and the New York Knicks interested in Russell Westbrook.
Again, this is lying season, so a lot of teams are throwing lying SZN season. A lot of teams are throwing out different kinds of stories and stuff out there to throw smoke. But look, again, this goes back to more what is Houston's plan? Again, does Tilman want to keep all these salaries on the books and have a roster that, you know, their window for a title's kind of closed? I don't know. You know, like
right.
what is it, right? And if they're entertaining trade talks for James Harden, I'd imagine they would also entertain trade talks for Russell Westbrook. Now, if the Knicks got Westbrook, that would be the Knicksiest thing of all time, because that's just what the Knicks do, right? Get aging superstars on hefty contracts. However, I will say this: as a Knicks fan, if this was my squad, and I'm not a Knicks fan, but if I was a Knicks fan, you have to be doing jumping jacks and be so excited, because you're like, you got a superstar, and if nothing, you know Russ is going to play hard every game, and he's going to bust his butt to try to help you guys win, and you might cobble together enough games to squeak your way into the 8th seed of the playoffs. And guess what? If you're a Knicks fan, the 8th seed, man, you can't wait. Because that team has been a dumpster fire for the past 25 years, right? So making an 8th seed would be like, hallelujah, even though it would probably stunt the development of Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett. But, you know, hey, is what it is.
Very true. Very true. Interestingly enough, though, I really could see Russ in New York. I feel like that is Russ. And I don't mean the flashiness of it. I mean the put on a show, in your face, be tough out, night in and night out, kind of play in the garden of anything. So
I don't see him working out in I know the Clippers were also one of the rumor teams. I don't see that fit. Like, who are you moving? Who are you moving off the Clippers? Paul George? And if you're Houston, do you want Paul George? Yeah, no. I don't see the Clippers. I don't see it.
I love it. Again, these kind of trade talks will be reaching their boiling point as we continue and as we get to all of the different dates that we have coming up and the milestones within November. So again, guys, we'll keep you posted.
One more big time player who may move. A lot of rumors. CP3 is currently with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, we know GM Sam Presti is not going to let Chris go unless he's getting back a haul in return, right? And Chris has a hefty contract. Now, a lot of teams could use him. The Milwaukee Bucks, for example, would love to have Chris Paul. The Philadelphia 76ers would love to have Chris Paul, right? Teams that need a guy who can create a shot for himself and for others, right? Who know how to run an offense, who can play defense, who's got battle tested. I mean, he would be an excellent add on those two squads, just off the top of my head. So stay tuned.
Yeah. CP3, I mean, I personally like to call it the CP3 effect. I mean, wherever this guy goes, I mean, there's just good energy. There's hard play. He gets the job done, whether he's coming off the bench, popping in for a few minutes or not. I mean, the impact this guy has as a kind of secondary coach on the floor, it's unmatched. He reminds me of Rondo as well, too, in some facets of his game.
Just better.
So, again, yeah. Right, yeah. Well, no offense, Rondo. You do have a ring, honey. But let's move on here really quick to a few tidbits here, some news and notes, because the Miller family sold majority control of the Utah Jazz, 80%, to the G League Salt Lake City Stars and management of the AAA baseball affiliate Salt Lake Bees to billionaire Ryan Smith, now for $1.6 billion. Pocket change, What do you think about this news?
I think the Miller family made a hell of an investment. Larry Miller bought that team, I think, for $22 million sometime in the 80s. I mean, of course, they put some money into it and got the arena and all that, but all told, even if they spent, let's say they spent 300, 400 million in terms of all told cash they put in over the years, 1.6 billion, and that's a hell of a profit. The capitalist machine is alive and well. The one thing I'll say about this is Ryan Smith has been a lifelong Jazz fan, so it's nice to know that the Jazz are going to be under the control of a guy who, younger, progressive, loves the team, so he's going to keep up the tradition of the Jazz and do what he can to make that a fantastic franchise. Continue to fantastic franchise.
Right,
going
the
forward.
Yeah, and the Jazz, they have a nice franchise there in Utah. I mean, they're very big within the community there, and they're known for that. The Miller family was very involved in the community too. So, yeah, I like this sell to Ryan Smith. So, again, I have faith in that he'll restore or continue to restore how the Jazz operate. And last but not least, on more of a somber note, we have a sad death of Celtics legend and Hall of Famer Tommy Heinsohn. I hope I didn't say that wrong.
Yep, Tommy Heinsohn.
Forgive
Yep,
me.
Mm-hmm.
But he passed away at age 86. And if you guys don't know, he is part of the incredible Celtics team in the late 50s to mid 60s. Went on to be a coach, broadcaster as well. And the NBA, the whole league, remembered him today when the news came out on November 10th. But just an incredible legacy. Again, I wish I knew more. I wish I was able to see him. But I mean, just from what I hear and see, I mean, the man was great.
Sad day for Celtics fans and Celtic Nation and the NBA at large, right? I mean, as you said, Tommy Heinsohn was part of those iconic 50s and 60s Celtics team. He served as a coach for the Celtics, won more titles then, and most recently Celtics broadcaster, known to be a homer. often really pulling hard for his Celtics, and you know he for lack of a better term, like, you know, he bled green for sure. So rest in peace to Tommy Heinsohn, and you know, thoughts and condolences obviously to his immediate family and his larger Celtics and NBA family. But that is our show for today.
That is right, guys. That is our official 2020-2021 draft preview. And don't forget to tune in to all the upcoming dates and catch us on social media too, because we'll be reminding you guys of things coming up as well. Check out the new episodes. We will be coming back full swing because the NBA is back full swing in these unprecedented times. And stay healthy, stay well. Jarod, let them know again where they can find us.
As always, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, 7footers Podcast. We're on Twitter at 7footers Pod, on Instagram at 7footers Podcast, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemon Sully. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what's a man gonna do? Chevy told me come